This is one of my favorite months of the year because we get to have these rich, deep interfaith conversations that are filled with the ancient spirituality of millennia, and we bring it into our lives now and see the relevance of it. We began the month, I shared about angels and the angelic realm and that which we call miracles that are happening all the time around us, and that in truth, really, not only are we here to wake up to the miraculousness of this life, but also to be angels for one another. And then last week, we lit the menorah. We talked about Hanukkah. And I shared with you this idea of, on the menorah in the middle candle is the shamash. It's the highest. It's the candle of the highest position. It's used to light the other candles. Bless you, love. Shamash, it translates as servant. So even though the shamash is the highest candle, one might surmise it's the place of, quote, privilege. It is here to serve. It is here to light others. It is here to be a servant in the world. And how we can do that sort of together for each other. And then today, we are celebrating the solstice. Happy solstice, Merry solstice. This is such a meaningful, beautiful, incredible, ancient, rich holiday. It's happening this coming Thursday. This is an inward time. And it's a pre-Christian, pagan, or if you're a member of my family, you don't miss a beat and you say pagan. I'm Irish, I can say that. I'm also a wee bit pagan, so cat's out of the bag. It's this incredible, beautiful celebration that we're going to get into today. And my friends, I would be remiss if I did not remind you and share with you this coming Friday night, the 22nd, 7 p.m. is our Candlelight Service. How many of you have been to one of our candlelight services? It is just the most beautiful, powerful, incredible time to come together to celebrate this season. We have a metaphysical retelling of the Christmas story, and it's our incredible music team. We have an amazing musical lineup. It's just a beautiful way to celebrate the holiday season. We get up here, we get all dressed up. It's just fun. It's just a glorious time to be together afterwards. If you're here in person downstairs, we share nosh and cider, and online, just know that you're very much a part of that celebration on Friday night, so I invite you into that. And then on Sunday, a week from today, it's Christmas Eve. How is that humanly possible? A week from now is Christmas Eve? I do not know. We have an amazing Taizé service, which is a contemplative service prepared for you. So next Sunday on Christmas Eve, I invite you to come at 11 a.m. and just immerse yourself in the ancient, beautiful tradition of the Taizé, where there are candles and there's contemplation and music and readings. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Also, just if you have any friends who consider themselves to be spiritual and not religious, anybody? Most of us. Invite them this Friday, because I don't know about you, but I can't tell you how many people come for the first time to our holiday service, and they always say to me, I had no idea this place existed. This is a great service for that and for those folks. So, the winter solstice. The winter solstice, this pagan holiday. It marks the longest night of the year, this time of year when in the northern hemisphere it is the darkest night. It marks a deeply meaningful season for all of creation. In ancient times in Ireland, in pre-Christianity, during the Celtic paganistic time period, it was thought that the year began in November. It didn't begin in January like we think. It actually began in November, and it lasted for 6 months. And those crucial, important, glorious, dark 6 months are what then gave birth to the glorious, crucial light that followed for the next 6 months. Their very cosmology in the pagan tradition was and is that you cannot have one without the other. And this idea of honoring and remembering the light and the dark is still practiced today in many earth-based religions. Here in the West, we tend to think negatively about the concept of darkness. If you sort of think back to the Abrahamic faiths, it comes from this, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, this interpretation that followed paganism, that it was this interpretation that darkness somehow swallows up the light, that darkness is somehow the enemy. But the ancient pre-Christian pagan point of view is completely different than that and quite beautiful. Stick with me. For the ancient pagans, the darkness was a magnificent thing. They considered the darkness to be a most divinely powerful force. They thought it was the feminine face of God. The reason for this is that the ancients understood that it is from the holy, life-giving darkness of the womb that humanity, that life springs forth. And so often, here in the West, we just want to get through any kind of wintering season, don't we? We want to be done with it so we can, go to the beach, right? And we miss so much. This season is a season that is meant to be taken slowly. And yet we get it backwards. We rush. Christmas Eve is next week. Are you kidding me? Right? Many winter solstice festivals and rituals have to do with honoring the light of the moon. If you think about it, the cycles of the moon and her life-giving power are extraordinary. This concept is much like the Yin and the Yang principle found in ancient China. It's all about balance, this idea of darkness and lightness. As the great teacher Richard Rohr often says, everything belongs. Everything belongs. Ask any expectant mother if she wants her baby to come early, she will say no. No, she does not. As much as her back may hurt, maybe she can't see her toes. She is willing to wait because her baby is not ready to be born yet. This is our instinct. This is ancient wisdom. This is goddess wisdom. I tend to revisit the work of Barbara Brown Taylor this time of year. If you'll recall, in 2019, we did a kind of a series on her beautiful book, An Altar in the World. And I just love her take on this time of year. She wrote, "I have learned things in the dark that I could never have learned in the light. Things that have saved my life over and over again." She writes, "There is really only one logical conclusion. I need darkness as much as I need light." For all of us to embrace a spirituality of winter, of darkness, silence, and stillness, there is a divine opportunity for transformative insights. And I believe it is important now more than ever with everything that is happening in our world. So the question for all of us then becomes, without our own seasons of hibernation, of growth in the dark, of challenge or dormancy. Without those, who would you be? Who would you be today? Would you be as strong, compassionate, humble, kind? And what might the holy time in the darkness have to teach you if you decided today that you were going to welcome it as a friend rather than an enemy or something to be feared? There is a quote by the Nobel Prize winner Albert Camus that's often shared, but rarely the whole piece is shared. I want to share almost the whole piece. It is, "My dear, in the midst of hate, I found there was within me an invincible love. In the midst of tears, I found there was within me an invincible smile. In the midst of chaos, I found there was within me an invincible calm. I realized through it all that in the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer. I found there was within me an invincible summer." You know, there's so much for us in this. Bless you. There are so many rich stories in the Hebrew and Christian Bibles about this. In the creation story in Genesis, in the beginning, everything was made by God out of darkness. Jacob wrestles with an angel in the middle of the night. In the book of Exodus, God promises to come to Moses on Mount Sinai in a dense and dark cloud. In Isaiah 45, it says, "I will give you hidden treasures in the dark." The angels announce the birth of the Christ to the shepherds at night. Why? Because all of these things, all of them required deep, contemplative reverence and understanding. All of them required time, divine time. Now, in thinking about this, I was reminded, I am a person who happened to be born with a sunny disposition. It can sometimes annoy people. I have many times had people come up to me and say, "There is no way you are this nice or happy. Come on now. Come on, Shans. This can't possibly be real." Shelley has the same issue. It is. We're both of the sunny disposition folk. And this is a wide spectrum, right, of where you fall, where your natural disposition is. And it's all glorious. All of it belongs, right? All of it belongs. When I moved to Boston from California, a friend of mine there very quickly, like day 2, said, "I'm going to nickname you Little Mary Sunshine." It stuck. Little Mary Sunshine. And in this lifetime that I incarnated into, I have had the deepest learning and the deepest understanding to step into the darkness, to step into challenge and difficulty. I couldn't do this work if I didn't. Nothing about this work is skimming along the surface. I may have a very sunny disposition naturally, but my spirituality requires me to go to the dark places, to go to the shadowed places, to go to the places where underneath those challenges there is light, and excavate that. And that's the call for all of us. For all of us. If you've been around here for any length of time, you have heard me say we must name it to transcend it. We must name it to transcend it. In religious or spiritual circles, there can be this idea, there certainly is in certain religions that perhaps have more religiosity than spirituality, and in some cases, I would say some New Age circles, there's this idea that we always have to be living in the light, and if we're not, we're somehow not as spiritual as we could be. That is hooey. And that is me being very polite. That's the official term. It's a bunch of hooey. To be on a true spiritual path, nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing. Even for those of us for whom the glass is overflowing. Because otherwise, it's a superficial spirituality that skims over the top, that misses the solstice, that misses the holy, sacred time of the birthing in the darkness, in the womb. We miss it if we love and light everything away. Hooey. Barbara Brown Taylor calls that kind of toxic spirituality, toxic positivity, solar spirituality, like based on the sun. Because if you think about it, it's so brilliant. She's so brilliant. If you think about it, the sun is sort of, it's always bright. It's when it's there. It's kind of immovable. Whereas the moon, which she refers to as lunar spirituality, the moon, the phases of the moon change every day just like us. It changes every day. Sometimes it's very bright and we can dance under the harvest moon. And other times it's very dark and we can barely see it. But if we look up and in the darkest night, often there are the brightest stars. Lunar spirituality is incredibly powerful and authentic and deep. It's very pagan in its thought. It's very aligned with the winter solstice. And that no matter where we are on our journey, whether we are in the womb of darkness, we are waiting to expand, or we are dancing under that harvest moon, delighting in our growth, no matter where we are, no matter what is happening with the moon, in our experience of it, because it'll be different to many people in different parts of the world, we experience Spirit, God, Source, and we can bring our full selves to it. There is great wonder in this. There is great wonder in this. The magnificent Margaret Atwood wrote, "This is the solstice, the still point of the sun, its cusp and midnight, the year's threshold and unlocking, where the past lets go and becomes the future, the place of caught breath." Have you ever looked up at the moon and caught your breath? Oh, this is that. The place of caught breath. This is the place of wonder. Remember when you were a child and what this season was for you? All the lights, depending on where you lived, maybe there was snow, the wonder of perhaps what might be inside that present, that gift. Children remind us of the importance of wonder in our life, don't they? I have always said I believe our children are our master teachers. I know my 4 continue to be, older now, continue to be. The invitation is to, as adults, allow ourselves to witness and acknowledge when we catch our breath at the wonderment of something. I think so often we get so busy, that something that causes us to catch our breath, something in that moment of wonder, we miss it and we just keep going. I'm going to invite you this week, if something shows up in your life and you catch your breath about it, can you take a moment and lean into that moment? This is wonder. Socrates said, wisdom begins in wonder. Wisdom begins in wonder. If we cannot miss that moment of wonder, there is wisdom there for us. When we see something beautiful, or when we come to a long-awaited decision or discovery, whatever it may be, when we experience wonder, there is wisdom for us. I find incredible wonder at the idea that there are seeds and roots deep in the cold earth right now, doing their thing. We can't see it, but there is so much happening in the soul of the earth, you know? And yes, it's lying dormant, but the original meaning of the word dormant simply meant to sleep, perchance to dream. So much happens in our dream life. If you've been on retreat with me, you know I always focus us on our dream life. When we sleep, when we are dormant, every single night, we have this winter solstice, right? That light doesn't go out. There is still that light. And there is so much growth and healing. And there is wisdom from the ethereal realm that is able to get in when we are asleep in our unconscious minds, because we block it in our conscious minds so often, don't we? There is so much that happens in this time of sleep, this holy, sacred time of dormancy. This is a holy time. When we think about this season, this is a season that is sacred, that is holy, that is filled with wonder and wisdom. And we have this opportunity during this time to, if we choose, to consciously bring our own light. Now, hear me. When I say this, there is nothing that is toxically positive about this. I am in no way, shape, or form saying ignore your feelings and bring your light, honey. That's not what I'm saying. There are opportunities for us to light our own way. The last 2 weeks I've talked a lot about lighting the way of others. There are ways that we can light our own way. Whether you are Little Mary's sunshine or a sweet little dark rain cloud. We all have opportunities to light our own way. I learn so much when I am walking my sweet little dog, Malachi. Malachi in Hebrew, by the way, one of the translations is angel, and he certainly is my angel. And I don't know, maybe it was about a month ago, we were walking, and it was the evening, and I realized, early evening, like 5 o'clock or something, and it got dark really fast. And we walk pretty far, so I was kind of far, and I was really glad that he has a reflective harness and leash, and we just started walking a lot faster to get home. He's looking at me like, really? Seriously? Okay. Because it got really dark. So the next time we went out for a walk, I thought, all right, I am going to wear this big white hat. I will be seen very easily. Not so much. Didn't really do a lot. I could tell because the cars would there aren't a lot of cars, but when they would come, they would go way out over there. And I'm like, I'm here, we're here. Not so much. So then I decided I needed to do something even more to bring light to this situation where I could not see, okay? So then I went to the Amazon. And for those of you who have fur babies, who have little doggies, you are familiar with the pooper, scooper, picker-uppers. They make them with lights. Oh, there we go. They make them with lights. I was thrilled. So the next time, and by the way, each time I'm doing this, I'm saying, Alexa, what time does the sun go down? And then it's 4:45, 4:35. The other day it was 4:20. What? Okay, so then I'm out there. He's got his reflective harness and leash. I've got my white hat. I've got my fancy-dancy little pooper scooper with the light. And we're walking along. Still, the cars are giving us a wide berth. This is not particularly that bright on a very, very dark night, so I decided to return to the Amazon. This time, I said, all right, I need to bring some light to this situation. I am taking real action. I am going to literally let go of any sense of humility that I may have, and I am going to buy a very bright neon that has 3 versions. Malachi and I walk for so long. It is so bright. Sometimes the cars coming blink their high beams, and I'm like, sorry about that. I'll put it over here. It's still on. Okay, yes. Doesn't want to go out. Won't let the light go out. It's still on. All right, my point, beloveds, as I went through this entire exercise, sometimes we have to take a little bit of effort to bring our light so that we can be seen and we can see our way in the dark. Sometimes that looks like calling a practitioner or a trusted friend or a therapist, or perhaps going to a meeting, whatever it may be. Whatever it may be. Sometimes, for some folks, it's just turning on Netflix and watching something funny. Pouring yourself a warm cup of tea and curling up on the couch and just letting yourself cry. Whatever it is that you need to do to bring the light, to remember the light, in the season of darkness, in the season of growth, in the season of that divine feminine womb time, I invite you to do. And you are in the right community. You are in a community filled with kindred spirits and like-minded folks. I can tell you right now, we were just having a conversation yesterday in the Learning Center. Dear Ginny and Nancy and Bea and I, about how much a gift it is to be in a community like this, of lights, of people who will remind you of your light when you have forgotten. Those of you online, there's a rich online community here that we have. We have 6 licensed practitioners at NTCSL Colorado who gather once a month to be together, to be the light for each other, to remind each other, to hold each other up, to say, you might want to go to the Amazon. Right? So, this week, I invite you into the holy lunar wisdom of the season. I invite you to allow wonder in your life. Allow that wonder and the wisdom that follows it. And go to the Amazon. Wear your light or ask someone to hold it for you. Because this is the time where each one of us has an opportunity to be born anew.